It's June, and that must mean Royal Ascot. How does it trade? What's it like? What are the biggest turnover races? How's it performed in the past? That's what I'm going to talk about in this video. Please like and comment on the video below. That will allow me to produce better quality videos and more of them in the future. So I'm at Royal Ascot, and it is Royal Ascot very soon. And as everybody knows, it's one of the highest profile race meetings that you get over the year, and necessarily it's one of the biggest. Over the last 10 years, it's turned over an average of about 65 million over the course of the meeting, and the meeting runs from a Tuesday to a Saturday. Individual races probably turn over somewhere in the region of about 1.5 million, and you get between about 12 to 15 million a day. But curiously, unlike other big race meetings, the Tuesday is actually one of the biggest days of the week, the very first day at Ascot. And it sort of goes all the way through the week, very high quality group racing throughout that week, and then it actually tails off a little bit on a Saturday when there are loads of other race meetings on as well. But yeah, absolutely huge meeting, huge turnover, very high quality racing, one of the biggest race meetings of the year. So the first time I ever really went for it at Royal Ascot was in 2006, and I thought I did pretty well there over the entire meeting. But as the years have passed, I've got more and more confident. There's more things I can figure out that work in these types of markets. So if you look at last year, you'll see that even my total on Betfair ended up pretty large, as it were, especially in comparison to 2006. Now you get some good years and bad years depending upon how the markets behave. Last year I thought actually didn't go as well as perhaps it should have done, but some years can be pretty spectacular. And when your focus is there and you get the right sort of markets and they tend to trade really well and there are no interruptions and all of these other things, then you can get some pretty spectacular totals out of Ascot. So it is a key meeting for me, and it's something that I'm going to really put a lot of focus into again this year. Now, one of the things you know at big race meetings is you get some very large turnover races, and that can be a problem because the market gets very congested. But what tends to happen is the volume arrives much earlier and it tends to crush a lot of the other races that are around it, so you need to be aware of that. Last year, the biggest race turned over 3.6 million, but it has been much higher. Back in 2012, we had Frankel and Black Caviar running at very, very short odds. So the race with Frankel in it turned over about 6.5 million, and the race with Black Caviar, which was a high-profile feature race, actually turned over £12.5 million. So there are some huge races around here, but obviously Royal Ascot suffers from the same thing when you get these big race meetings and the market can be pretty congested. So you may want to start a little bit earlier, adapt your style, or perhaps move away from the favourite if you want to trade it effectively. Now obviously, as I've said before in other videos, I love those big races, but not everybody does. But necessarily there are many options that you've got in other ways of trading these particular races if you want to avoid the big ones. The general rule of thumb is if it's a feature race, if it's the big race of the day, turnovers are going to be massive, large, unmatched bet amounts lurking all over the book, and generally the shorter the price of the favourite, the more money there will be in the market. So Royal Ascot is considered a playground for the rich. However, if you want a different type of playground, they have that here too. So when you mention Ascot, everybody remembers that Frankie Dettori won 7 out of 7 races here in one of the most unprecedented feats in horse racing. Now, that's not going to happen this year, or I certainly hope it isn't now that I've said that, but typically what can happen is you get jockey-trainer gambles occurring at major meetings like this. And the last time that this happened was at Royal Ascot in 2015, when Ryan Moore won a few races, and that set off a huge gamble on all of the subsequent horses within that particular card. So keep your eye out during Royal Ascot if this is going to happen again. If you get 1 or 2 winners, some of them unexpected or maybe at a decent price with a certain jockey-trainer partnership, then that could happen again in 2017. So I hope that information has been useful for you. Royal Ascot is a huge meeting. It's worth a lot of your attention. I realise some of these big meetings don't work for everybody, but Ascot is pretty unique in that over the course of Tuesday to Saturday, you're bound to find an opportunity in there somewhere. And even if you don't like some of the markets that you see at Ascot, you don't have to trade the favourite. You could probably trade something else within the book because there'd be plenty of liquidity around. And maybe you could even trade on Betfair as well, because that tends to work pretty well through there. Or why not do what I do and trade both at the same time? Hopefully I'll be able to put up some pretty decent stats or some decent results for you over the course of the week. But I'm certainly looking forward to Royal Ascot 2017.